I'm being joined by Dr. Barry Sears, author of multiple books, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Sears, about what prompted you to write books specifically on this topic. And I've seen you cover, at least the Zone Diet covers inflammation, which you hear a lot of doctors talk about inflammation, but I think you really get pretty exact about inflammation and really relate inflammation to a lot of our health woes currently, and it makes total sense. So if you can just give us a little bit of history about yourself and the books you've written and your current practice.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. The fact is, the Zone Diet has nothing to do with, quote, the traditional thought of a diet. It was developed as a technology, a dietary technology, to control the levels of inflammation. Now, how I got started some 35 years ago was when my father died of heart disease at age 53. Now, that's probably not odd, except that he was a world-class athlete and in the Basketball Hall of Fame. His brothers also died in their early 50s of heart disease, as did my grandfather. So I realized I carried the same genes they did, which would predispose me to an early death from heart disease. I couldn't change my genes, but I did have the opportunity to really change the expression of those genes. And my research was not ever involved in nutrition, but in really drug delivery systems of cancer drugs. So I applied that information or that background to treating food like a drug, to try to keep the inflammation induced by the food we eat within a zone that's not too high, but not too low. And I felt if I could do that, I could change the expression of my genes and live a much longer life than genetically I was predisposed to do. So that led me to understand this incredibly complex interaction of the foods we eat and how they affect our genes, our ancient genes in our cells that either turn on inflammation or turn off inflammation. Now, why is that important? Because it's inflammation that makes us fat, it's inflammation that makes us sick, and it's inflammation that causes us to age at a faster rate. And it's all intimately tied into the food we eat.
Excellent. Now, I currently had a similar problem. My father had a heart attack at 57. His father had a heart attack at 57. And at 27, I was really scared. My wife was pregnant, and I was extremely scared. I saw the writing on the wall, and that was really the fulcrum for me to make massive change. And being a chef, I mean, I guess we have a little bit more nutrition than some doctors do in medical school, but we're no experts, and we're not stupid, though, is a problem. And I think a lot of people, think that you have to be a genius to understand nutrition, but you don't have to be that smart to understand what you're doing is very detrimental. So I made massive changes. That was when I originally read your book. I also did a program by Bill Phillips, who you guys are a bit similar. He doesn't go into the inflammation point, but he talks about really balancing your diet, balancing the proteins, the carbs, hand-sized portions, and a constant feeding. So I saw some similarities in both of your diets to a certain point. And people always ask me about diet because they saw that I lost 30 pounds, 40 pounds, and they saw that I cured all of my asthma, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and all this. So a lot of people engage me in conversation. And I always tell them, if you do one thing, it's better than not doing anything. And you look at some common denominators, and I think a lot of diets have common denominators. And I really found your two diets had a few common denominators there, which was great. So, for me it worked phenomenal. Now, in the book, you talk about balancing your meals. You talk about eating chicken and certain meats or proteins. If somebody was vegan, which means they would not sustain any animal products whatsoever, how can they approach the Zone Diet? Because the Zone Diet makes so much sense, but then if somebody reads and says, gee, I'm vegan, I could never do this, let me put this book away, how can they not get discouraged?
Easy. I wrote an entire book called The Soy Zone, especially for vegans. It doesn't matter where the protein comes from, as long as you get adequate proteins at each meal. So for a vegan, it's a little more difficult, but it can be done. Soy and soy products basically give a wide variety of sources of protein for vegans. Likewise, a new generation of protein coming from pea protein allows them to do a lot of unique things. Now, for lacto-ovo vegetarians, it's incredibly easy. You eat lots of eggs and cheese. But for the vegan, it is a little more difficult, but it can be done. And that's why the real power of the Zone diet is that it basically adapts itself to any type of cuisine worldwide or any type of dietary philosophy, as long as you're looking to balance the plate. And for what purpose? To control the levels of inflammation. Now, you have to keep in mind that I developed the Zone diet because my primary interest was in fish oils. But I realized about 20 years ago, unless I developed a way of controlling the hormone insulin, that I can never really control the inflammation to the greatest extent using fish oils and other oils that I otherwise possibly could. So I was forced to develop the Zone diet for really that type of insulin control, which is critical in your ultimate goal of controlling inflammation.
Perfect. Now, I like to refer to insulin as a weight gain hormone. Is that correct in saying that?
It is. It's excess insulin that makes us fat and keeps us fat. Well, the obvious aspects say, I'll take all insulin out of the diet. Well, then you're going to die because we need some insulin to drive nutrients to cells. So again, we have to keep the insulin within a zone. Not too high that basically we start gaining weight and basically accelerating chronic disease, but not too low that we basically literally starve to death at the molecular basis because we can't get nutrients in the cells.
Interesting. Very interesting. So, back to the vegan aspect real quick. How do you feel about hemp protein? Proteins, some of these now superfoods that are coming out with a lot of these high proteins. I'm a really big fan of hemp, so I use hemp protein, but I see sprouted brown rice protein very predominant on the market now.
Well, like I said, it doesn't matter where the protein comes from, but now looking at vegan sources, read the labels carefully. Yes, they will have protein, but oftentimes they have massive amounts of carbohydrates associated with them. It's all about basically balancing the protein to carbohydrate ratio, no different than balancing the ratio of air and gas in your car. You can't drive your car all of gas. You can't drive it all with air. You need a combination. So again, in terms of the vegetable source of protein, really doesn't matter as long as it's not overburdened by the levels of accompanying carbohydrate. That's the nice thing about soy protein. There's a lot of ways of getting high levels of protein from soy that basically are relatively low in carbohydrates.
Beautiful.
And now you can add carbohydrates of your choosing, especially the colorful carbohydrates. What are those? They're called fruits and vegetables. Now, why is that important? Because the reason they're colored, they contain chemicals called polyphenols. And those polyphenols, if taken in high enough concentrations, are also anti-inflammatory. That's why your grandmother said, you can't leave the table until you eat all your vegetables. She didn't say you can't leave the table until you eat all your mashed potatoes or your whole wheat muffins. It's basically you had to eat the vegetables.
Beautiful, beautiful. So now, as a professional chef and restaurateur, I'm a little bit more concerned than the average chef. Oil for me is a major concern, though. You hear of good fats, bad fats, and then the more I investigate into fats, I find out about the extraction process with hexane gas, and it's just very confusing to the average person. And then you see all these celebrity chefs and these cookbook authors that praise olive oil as a phenomenal cooking oil, and that's their first go-to. So let's talk about the simplest thing with oils first. Where do we start? Do we start with the omega contents of oils? What has been the history of our oil consumption over the last 100 years? Has it really changed? Has our omega content really changed? What has really changed in our fat consumption?
Well, first of all, as a chef, you're quite right that the most important thing of food, it has to taste good. And the thing that fats does, it adds flavor to food. There's no question.
Absolutely.
And without fat, it's hard to blend spices and flavors in the food. So it's critical. Now, answering your question, what has changed radically, not over the last century, but over the last 200,000 years, has been a dramatic increase in the consumption of omega-6 fatty acids in the human diet. And this really started to take off and accelerate around 1970. Now, you say omega-6 fatty acids, what's that? These are the fatty acids which are the building blocks of inflammatory hormones. Up to that time, they were a very minor part of the human diet.
So this sounds like a bingo right here. You just said inflammation again.
Yes. And what you find that as, now that at the turn of the last century, the intake of omega-6 fatty acids were incredibly low in America, incredibly low worldwide, because what were the only cooking oils available? You had olive oil, you had butter, and you had lard, all of which were very, very low in omega-6 fatty acids. Now, let's fast forward to 2012. What's the most largest source of calories in the American diet? Omega-6 fatty acids, coming from things such as corn oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, canola oil. These are the cheapest form of calories on the face of the planet. And basically, getting into our food supply, what they have done, they have turned on ancient genes which are making us fat, keeping us fat, making us sicker at an earlier age, and accelerating the aging process. But any chef is also a business person. They know that basically their profit margin depends on controlling the cost of goods. And if the cheapest form of oils that taste good are vegetable oils, and you have people like the American Heart Association saying they're good for you, you say, well, add these to my foods. And what you're doing is ensuring that that patient will become, or in this case, your customer, will become more inflamed. The food will taste great. But what you have done, you basically have turned everything on high. You're almost guaranteed they'll gain weight at a faster rate, become sicker, and basically, like I said, age faster. So with that as a dilemma, how do I add fats and yet basically for taste without causing inflammation? Well, olive oil is great, except for one thing. The reason all the health benefits of olive oil do not come from the fatty acids, they come from the polyphenols. Remember those things that give fruits and vegetables their color? Olive oil comes from a fruit. It has lots of polyphenols, and they're very sensitive to heat. So cooking with extra virgin olive oil is simply downright dumb.
Downright dumb. I like that.
It looks good on the Food Network, but it basically makes no biochemical sense because you're not going to destroy the polyphenols, but cause a lot of free radicals that are going to basically also be to your detriment. Now, if you want to cook with olive oil, then cook with refined olive oil. It's called light olive oil. It's really the bad olive oil that they've refined using traditional technologies to basically remove all the, it has no health benefits, but it's not a bad cooking oil. A better cooking oil might be butter because it's very low in omega-6 fatty acids. Now, it's a little high, obviously, in the saturated fats, and they too can turn on inflammation. So scientifically speaking, what's the ideal cooking oil? Actually, it's a genetic mutant of safflower. It's called high oleic safflower oil. Has a very, very high smoke point, means it's very stable to heat, and it has incredibly low amounts of omega-6 fatty acids. So if you're looking to basically doing sauteing, that would be the ideal oil to use. Basically, it's one of the few that basically meets the criteria of being low in omega-6 fatty acids and also low in saturated fats. And if that's not available, then your old fallbacks of butter and lard are not bad. That's why you're seeing a lot of gourmet chefs going to bacon. Bacon is, politically correct lard.
Correct. Right, exactly. Now, how about, is there such thing as high oleic sunflower?
Yes, there is.
And how does that fit in?
Fits in just the same. High oleic safflower oil and high oleic sunflower oil are excellent cooking oils.
Excellent cooking oils, excellent salad dressing oils.
Well, now from salad dressing, they have no flavor. So you want now the extra virgin olive oil is a great addition because you're adding now the polyphenols. So again, when now we add for something that's not at high heat, now I'd go to the extra virgin olive oil. And as you know, the good stuff never leaves Italy. The stuff we get here is the stuff the Italians say, I would never eat this stuff.
Right. I've bought an olive oil in the past that's come in little tiny jars, yes, glass, that's gotten shipped frozen.
Mm-hmm.
And and people don't understand. I tell people, keep your olive oil out of the light, out of keep it in a cool space, refrigerator if you can, and don't open it as much as you can. Just really treat it. We go and buy this expensive flax oil, and we check the press date. We make sure it's the date's not out. We keep it in the refrigerator. We know all this. Instead, the way you keep flax oil is the way you should probably keep your olive oil. And people look at me like, really, you're crazy. Why this and that? And I mean, would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. Unfortunately, most Americans are lazy because you keep olive oil in the refrigerator, it tends to solidify. That's a mark because of the high levels of monounsaturated fats. So they have to wait 3 or 4 minutes for it to basically kind of thaw out so they can pour it. Saying, "I'm so busy. I've got the Twitter account. I've got the Facebook." I said, "Get a life, a real life."
What's your opinion on coconut oil?
Well, coconut oil has 0 omega-6 fatty acids. That's great.
That's great news.
Coconut oil is 100% saturated fat and a different type of fat. It's a very good cooking oil because it is very, very stable to heat. But the short-chain fatty acids found in coconut oil, they have a habit of going directly to the liver and wiping out all of your glycogen stores.
Ooh.
And because so now that's your reserve capacity, that's your reserve gas tank. So it's a good cooking oil. It's not the best metabolic oil. So now we can begin ranking cooking oils. Number 1, high oleic, safflower, or sunflower oil. Incredibly excellent cooking oils, no adverse metabolic effects. Number 2, I would say refined olive oil. It's a lot cheaper. It's, you might see called light olive oil. Number 3, probably the coconut oil because it's devoid of omega-6 fatty acids. After that, I would look at lard or butter first, and then lard after that. And all of a sudden, say, okay, I can make food taste better and without turning on these ancient inflammatory genes.
Now, I hear some people talk about cooking with avocado oil.
Avocado oil.
Of course, these oils are pricey, though, compared to...
Very pricey. And the reason why avocado oil is because it, too, is low in omega-6 fatty acids. It's not quite as heat stable as the olive oil. But we've talked about adding extra virgin olive oil to your plate. What's the best thing to add to a meal? Guacamole. So I don't have to cook in the avocado oil. I'll just add some guacamole after I've cooked it. So I like to eat egg white omelets. I'm a very pathetic chef. All I can do is make egg white omelets and cook vegetables, which isn't a bad gig, but it gets a little boring. But if you take an egg white omelet and add some guacamole to it, you look like you're a gourmet chef.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So again, it doesn't matter when you add the fat, as long as the fat's on the food when the patient or the client is eating it. And then they say, "This is great."
One of my favorite salad dressings is basically a cup of water, half an avocado, an apple, a little bit of acid, lemon, lime, a little bit of maybe raw apple cider vinegar, and you can season it up with curry. You can see, and that to me is a great salad dressing.
Well, that's the mark of a great chef. And basically, not a great dressing, but biochemically, it was superb. But without realizing it, you would put together a number of ingredients that will have a great impact, especially the vinegar, especially balsamic vinegar. What that does, that inhibits the enzymes in the stomach and slows down the breakdown of carbohydrates.
Interesting.
So if you want to basically lose weight, make sure vinegar is your ally.
Now is balsamic vinegar your number 1 pick, and how does that compare to a good high quality apple cider vinegar?
Well, the apple cider vinegar is a lot cheaper. The balsamic is more flavorful, a lot more expensive, but vinegar is vinegar. The cheapest vinegar, just vinegar, but it's not very tasty.
Not very tasty at all. See, now for me as a chef, I buy a really high quality apple cider vinegar that costs me probably 2 to 3 times the price of a 5 liter of balsamic vinegar that every vendor is pushing. I mean, balsamic vinegar can get good balsamic can get very expensive.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, most of us chefs are used to buying a cheap 5 liter of
Correct.
balsamic vinegar, and I guess they're used to buying a cheap gallon of apple cider flavored or apple cider vinegar. For me, what kills me is, you mentioned business and balancing business. I mean, I have too many standards to try to figure out. It's like if I didn't have so many standards, I could make more money, but I wouldn't feel good about what I was doing. It's one of those, like, you do as much as you possibly can to make sure you're making something and covering things. But it can be a challenge. Now, here's the one thing I found: the better I eat, the more nutrients I eat, the more fruits and veggies I eat, the less I really have to eat.
Exactly. And now you're probably asking yourself why.
Yes.
So here's a little biochemistry of 101. The fruits and vegetables, I said, contain these polyphenols, and these polyphenols, if you eat lots of them, they turn on of the genes that make really what I call the enzyme of life. The chemical name is, or the scientific name is AMP kinase. Now, what this AMP kinase does, it makes more energy, more chemical energy for the body, and it turns off hunger. And so all of a sudden say, I'm eating all this food, but I'm not hungry. Because what you're doing, you're playing a game of turning genes on and turning genes off. Drugs can't do that. Food can. And that's why last year's Nobel Prize in Medicine was for understanding how the most primitive part of our immune system that we share with plants can be turned on and turned off by food. That's what's happened in the last 40 years. The food we're basically consuming in America, because of the economics, is turning on these ancient genes, which is turning on inflammation. That's why we're gaining weight, not because we're weak-willed ninnies, because basically we're in the midst of a gigantic genetic experiment that's gone terribly astray. And because food is an integral part, and Americans expect the food to be cheap, then chefs are caught between a rock and a hard place. They say, I can give you great food. They say, but the portions are so small. I can go to Billy Bob's down the street and get more food. So they say, okay, I'll make a compromise. And unfortunately, that compromise, which has gone through all aspects of the food industry, restaurants, processed foods, you name it, has basically made us, the sad state we're in today.
It's a shame. It's really a shame. Paula Deen has gotten a lot of there's been a lot of controversy with her. I've really never watched her show because that food doesn't appeal to me. But it's amazing. They're quick to turn to a drug and she really says, I watched the interviews 2 or 3 times last night, and she goes, well, in moderation it's fine. And I've always taught people, you're going to Dunkin' Donuts to eat a donut. You're on the cellular level. Your cells aren't going to say, "Hey, Marcus is only eating one donut. Let's not die now." And I try to teach people it's life or death. I mean, whatever you put into your body, you're causing life or death. And moderation is still causing death. So, is there good moderation? I mean, yeah, we all want to indulge, but I think we need to understand the consequences. If we're indulging in moderation, it's still programmed cell death. It's still cell death. And and she goes, well, it's moderation. I've always taught people moderation. And now it's at a point where she's taking a drug and endorsing a drug with her moderation.
Well, moderation is a very slippery word. It was said that when Brigham Young brought the Mormons out to Salt Lake City in the middle of a desert, he said, we can drink in moderation. Within 2 weeks, they had nothing but drunken orgies. He says, that's it, no more drinking. And so it's saying that, moderation has a lot to do with willpower, but willpower isn't what it's cranked up to be. Let's say food moderation. How do you get moderated in food? By willpower? No, there are discrete signals which are sent from the gut to the brain to say stop eating. That's how gastric bypass surgery works. The first thing when you talk to a gastric bypass patient, when they wake up out of surgery, they'll say, my God, I'm free. I'm free at last. I say, free of what? I'm free of hunger. You ask any overweight person, and especially an obese person, they say, I am consumed by food from the moment I wake up to the moment I'm going to bed. I'm fighting the urge all the time. If you're using willpower, that's going to last you maybe 20 minutes. So the reason why we're having this kind of inability to control our hunger urges is because this inflammation destroys the signaling network from the gut to the brain. And the brain gets this mixed message saying, there's no food there. He says, eat more. So again, in Paula's case, say she's made a very good living, telling people to eat massive amounts of the foods that cause diabetes. So now basically she's going to backtrack like any good politician and say, oh, in moderation. It's saying that, here's a good rule of thumb. And if you really want to live the longest possible life you can, never eat anything that did not exist 10,000 years ago. It's a more restrictive diet that says what's available: eggs, fish, grass-fed beef. That's about it on the protein side. And what about carbohydrates? Fruits and vegetables. And what about fats? How about nuts? So that's it. So, oh, but I want my wheat muffin, and I want my my cheese. Then you ask the question: do you feel genetically lucky? Do you feel genetically, as we add new ingredients to our diet? We're playing kind of a Russian roulette to say, will they or will they not turn on these inflammatory genes? Now, a great chef can take those ingredients and I can make anything. The poor chef says, I need help. I need craft foods to help me, because cooking has become a lost art in America. In fact, I'm convinced that most people have lost the ability to boil water. It's too complex. It's too show me the microwave, and so I get the Pop-Tarts in it, because that's the extent of my cooking skills. Cooking takes time. You have to buy the right ingredients. Bad ingredients are going to guarantee bad food. And then you have to know how to cook them. And then if you cook them well, they taste great. But if you take the best ingredients and cook them poorly, they don't taste very good. And so, we have forgotten how powerful food is in controlling our future. And once we basically wake up to that fact, we have a chance to basically reverse this really crisis throughout America. If Paula Deen wants to reverse her diabetes, it's not taking the drug from Merck Sharp and Dohme. Basically, it's going back and using food as a drug. But that means treating food like a drug, taking the right dosage at the right time every day for the rest of your life. A good cook can do that. But she's taking the easy way out. And we have a little problem with diabetic drugs. If you take diabetic drugs, you're guaranteed one thing: you will live a shorter life. That's why our number one treatment for treating diabetes is gastric bypass surgery. It's a sad, pathetic commentary. That's the best we can offer.
Wow.
But there's a third way out. It's called food.
Food.
Yeah, but you treat it like a drug, take it the right dose at the right time, make it taste great. It takes time, but isn't your life worth it?
Absolutely. You have 3 chances a day to make a difference. At least
exactly.
At least 3 chances a day. So what would you say, to wrap this up, what would you say would be the 5, are there 5, are there 10, are there 2 or 3? What would be the worst foods for inflammation?
Well, the worst food would be any vegetable oil. So the first thing, go to your pantry and take every vegetable oil out and put it where the sun don't shine. Okay, already you've done a major benefit to your future health. 2, any food that's in a package that has words you can't pronounce, don't use it. 3, think about putting as much color on your plate every time. Or let's reverse that. The more white you have on your plate, the more inflamed your body will become. And
White.
remember, it's
I
white.
like that. White equals inflammation.
So if you want to have white rice, white potatoes, white bread, white pasta, basically say what I'm doing everything in my power to speed up the aging process. And if I add to it these omega-6 fatty acids, it's like adding a match to a vat of kerosene. And the other thing, and these are all things your grandmother told you. Now, last thing your grandmother told you? You can't leave the house unless you take a tablespoon of cod liver oil. World's most disgusting food, always has been, always will be. But now those omega-3 fatty acids have just the opposite effect of the omega-6. They are basically powerful anti-inflammatory agents. So how do I get omega-6 fatty acids? In the diet? Usually fish. But how much do I need? Let's go back to Grandma. She's actually a pretty sharp cookie when you get right down to it. A tablespoon of cod liver oil would be about 2.5 grams of omega-3 fatty acids. So, as a chef, do you like cod?
I like cod.
Okay.
I love to cook. My only question is the sustainability at this point, which is a whole nother conversation. But in general, yes, cod's a great fish.
Good. And then if you want to get 2.5 grams of omega-6 fatty acids, plan to eat 6 pounds of cod per day. Not going to happen.
No.
Okay, so I'll go something a little fattier fish. I'll try something like tuna. I hope you like 2 pounds of tuna per day. Okay. Maybe a little fattier fish. Okay, how about anchovies? Good. Then all you need is about a half pound of anchovies per day.
Okay.
So you say, wait, we got some problems here, because our ancestors ate these levels. The levels because fish was it was the cheapest source of protein. It was amazingly abundant and rich in omega-3 fatty acids. We've taken that out of the diet and replaced it with omega-6 fatty acids, and we're paying some terrible consequences for that. So, first thing, get rid of the omega-6 fatty acids the best you can, realizing they're ubiquitous. 2, put a lot of color on your plate. 3, make sure you always put some protein on your plate at each meal. How much? The amount you can put on the palm of your hand. It's not very big. It might be about 3 ounces for a woman and 4 ounces for a male. You don't need a mega dose, but you need that amount of protein. So you're balancing protein to carbohydrate. And the last thing, take your fish oil every day. Now the trouble is that all fish and all fish oils in the world today are contaminated. Contaminated things we have thrown into the environment in the last 2 generations. So finding highly purified fish oil is hard. So let's say I'll go down to CVS or the local drugstore or Walmart or Costco to buy fish oil. Fine. Here's your little test. Buy some fish oil capsules, break them open, put them into a shot glass. Put the shot glass into the freezer and come back 5 hours later with a toothpick. If you can't put the toothpick through the fish oil, meaning it's frozen solid, you're taking the sewer of the sea.
Wow.
If you can put it through the fish oil, it's probably okay.
Okay, that's a great test we can do, because a lot of people are concerned about that, and just like anything, it's probably what you pay for. You get what you pay for. It costs to refine and to pull all this stuff out of the oils.
Yes.
Now, how do you feel? Fish oil, krill isn't exactly fish, but how do you feel about krill oil?
Well, see, fish oil. Remember, all fish are contaminated, and that includes krill. Now, fish oil has to go through a very, very extensive, the good stuff, just like the good stuff, good olive oil stays in Italy. The good stuff has to go through extensive refining to get rid of all of the bad actors and to increase the levels of the omega-3 fatty acids. Krill oil cannot go through that process because it's not an oil. It's really basically the phospholipids. They cannot be purified. And when we've analyzed krill oil using technologies that, unless you have $1 million machine in your kitchen, you probably don't have, that you see all these really strange things in krill oil that you also tend to see in petroleum distillates. Ooh. So it's saying it's natural, but saying, yeah, but it's messy, it's nasty. So it's the type of thing that we have nowhere is there more hype in the world than in the world of fish oil. Everybody has the purest. The fact is they don't. Everybody says it's sustainable. Well, it might be if we had 1 billion people on the face of the earth, but unfortunately we have 7 billion. And to get good quality fish oil is incredibly difficult. Yet, if you're unwilling to change your diet, if Paula Deen was unwilling, which she is unwilling to change her diet and realizing her diabetes is caused by inflammation, here's something she could take in 15 seconds and still eat all her crummy food. And that is, you basically guzzle down as much fish oil, if it's high quality, in 15 seconds, and you call it a day. Because what you've done more in that 15 seconds to reduce the inflammation caused by your diet. Now, if you now follow a more anti-inflammatory diet, and that's what the Zone Diet is. It's an anti-inflammatory diet that's been clinically validated at places like Harvard Medical School to be the most powerful tool we have to reduce inflammation. Now add fish oil to that, you've got a powerful 1-2 punch to basically lose weight, basically hold the tide on chronic disease, and live longer.
Sounds good. Beautiful, beautiful. So do you ever go out to eat at a restaurant? And
All the time. But I know exactly what I'm going to eat. When I go to a restaurant, I'll usually eat the fish. And I say, well, why fish? Well, because I like fish. And I have a little better control there. But I always eat massive amounts of vegetables. Restaurants will always want you to come back to their door. So if you ask them to take off the mashed potatoes or the thing and add extra vegetables, they'll be happy to do it. And then you say, okay, and I want to buy some more extra vegetables. So basically, here's a good rule of thumb. Try to make sure that each day you eat between 1 to 2 pounds of vegetables. Because, oh, they taste so bad. That's why cooks know how to make vegetables taste great. And that's the secret. It's very hard to overconsume vegetables. So if I go out, I'll try to get a very good piece of fish and lots of vegetables. And what for dessert? The old-fashioned dessert. It's called berries. You'd be surprised how many high-end restaurants say, we don't have berries. Say, what? and say that, and then people say, well, I like to have a glass of wine. Well, fine. Now, are there any benefits to vodka? No. But there are benefits to red wine. Why? Because it's extracted out the color, the red, the polyphenols that have heart healthy benefits. So if you're going to basically have a glass of wine, which the body treats like a rich carbohydrate, then have a protein chaser. What's a good protein chaser? A piece of cheese. And another good snack, remember an apple a day keeps the doctor away? Yes. Because of the polyphenols, but it's all carbohydrate. Then balance that with a piece of cheese. The French learned these many, many years ago.
Yeah. I mean, this sounds like a dream come true for us foodies. Wine and cheese, fruit and cheese.
Exactly.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, excellent. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, only I think that your programs like yourself are doing a great service to hopefully basically turn back a tide that will literally destroy our country. The fact is the food we eat is destroying our country health-wise and economically.
Absolutely.
And it's basically people like yourself who are taking center stage saying, food has to taste good. It's an art form. It's hard work, but it can be done. But it now becomes your best medicine. And now basically we're going back to the beginnings of time, the beginnings of, let's say, modern medicine, when Hippocrates said 2,500 years ago, let food be your medicine, let medicine be your food. We now know what the old guy was talking about. He was talking about how the food we eat affects our hormones, how those hormones can either turn on or turn off inflammation. And if we know the secret of how to do that, we will be guaranteed a longer and better life. And will it be an overnight change? No. But every revolution starts with the first step. And so my hat's off to you and trying to get other chefs to say, let's think about this. Let's take food to the next level. Not how it can make food taste, how we can take bad pieces of meat and make them taste good and show our skills, but how we can basically take food to be medicine of the 21st century. And that's the exciting part.
You know, it drives me crazy, especially when people use all this sugar. I mean, people rave about these sweet desserts, and I see chefs use all this sugar. I'm like, but that's cheating. Adding all that sugar is cheating. You're not working with the real food. You're not starting with the best food. You're not. It drives me crazy. It just, you know, people ask me, will you go on Chopped, go on these shows? And I think if I got one of these mystery baskets that they hand you, I'd look at them and say, are you crazy?
Yeah.
You want me to cook this? Do you know where this came from? Do you know what's in here? I mean, what do you want? What do you want me to do here today? And I think it would make a great point where maybe I should do that, and on national TV say, I'm not doing this. You guys have got to really, you know, understand what's going on, and this is not, you know, it's not fair.
Well, you know, it's again because it doesn't make good theater. Now, what's the one TV show that makes the best theater in terms of weight loss in America? The Biggest Loser.
Biggest Loser.
They say, hey, no matter how big I am, I can't be that big. So I had an opportunity at a medical conference to speak to the head dietitian for The Biggest Loser. And it turns out the diet they use for their people is the zone diet. And that's how they lose the weight. The fact is, you know, but that's not very theatrical, watching people eat a balanced plate. You know, that's why watching grass grow. It's more fun to watch the trainers yell and scream, watch them cry. But the fact is, you know, they're already strong. Just they have a layer of fat. And
right.
the fastest way to lose fat is to control the inflammation. Turn off the inflammation, the fat disappears. And all of a sudden the muscles appear. It wasn't the trainer. It was the plate of food that basically they were able to control. And that's the secret of The Biggest Loser.
Well, congratulations to that. That's great. So, Dr. Barry Sears, thank you so much. This is so informative. I'm definitely going to pick up a couple of the other books and keep reading. I constantly read. I'm reading Sugar Barons right now, and that's just an incredibly long book. I'm trying to get through that. But after that, I'll pick up another one of your books and keep reading. And really, it's just simple. When you look at it, it's really simple, and you read the book, understand it. It's all laid out, and you don't need, you don't need a doctor. You don't need all these kind of people to tell you this and that. Read the book. It's a short book. It'll take somebody 2, 3, 4 hours, one night. Read, it's done, and that will change your life. Those principles changed my life years ago. So,
well, again, so I applaud you for basically bringing, the light to others and saying it can happen, and you can still make great food.
Absolutely.
And like you said, that's the mark of a great chef. Anybody can make a sugar-laden dessert. That's easy. But making great food taste great and control your inflammation, that's the mark of the chef of the 21st century.